This is lesson 10, and the topic for lesson 10 is to continue our work with arrays and iterators. Um, let's get into our interactive Ruby. And what we saw last time is we can create some arrays. Here's an array with 4 numbers called A, and we're going to create an array with 4 other numbers called B. Actually, this one will be 4, 5, 6, 7. So you will notice that both arrays share the number 4 in common. And what we saw last time is that there were some ways for us to be addressing or accessing different parts of the array. So A of 0 would give me the first element of the array because all indexing in arrays is 0 based. And A of 1 would therefore give us the second element in the array A. If we wanted to find the last element in the array, there are really 3 ways for us to do so. The first way, which is really the one that does not use any shortcuts of any kind, is to say A of A dot length minus 1. And the idea here is that A dot length would be the length of the array. Minus 1 should be the last position in the array because, again, our array is 0 based. And so we take A of that position and we get the number 4. There are 2 shortcuts offered by Ruby to accomplish the same function. The first one is to say A of minus 1, which is essentially a shortcut for A dot length minus 1. And then the other one is to do A dot last, which is just a special method associated with arrays that lets us access the last element of the array, symmetrical to A dot first, which lets us access the first element of the array. What else can we do with arrays? Well, we can examine the expression A plus B. And A plus B, really adding 2 arrays to each other, creates a new array which is comprised of all the elements, all the values of the first array concatenated with all the values of the second array. This does not change either A or B. It really just creates a new entity called A plus B. What if you actually try to subtract arrays from each other? Well, A minus B is an interesting construct. We notice it's 1, 2, 3, but it's missing the number 4. Why is that? It's because the way the minus operator works here is that it takes all the elements of B, so 4, 5, 6, 7, and it deletes any of these values from the array A. Because 4 is the only value in common, it deletes the 4 from A. Again, it actually does not delete the 4 from A. It constructs a new array in which the value 4 is not present. If I do B minus A, it's the reverse. It will start with 4, 5, 6, 7, and it will delete from that array the values which are found in A. In this case, the value 4 being the only one in common, it leaves you with the array 5, 6, 7. The expression A and B is actually one that gives us the intersection between both arrays, or the values in common between both arrays. So this is essentially a really nice way, for example, to allow us to check whether a particular number is in both arrays. We can do something like this. A and B include 3. Is the number 3 in the intersection of both arrays? And the answer is no. But as we know, the number 4 is actually in both arrays. Therefore, A and B dot include question mark of 4 would return true. How do we add and subtract things from arrays? Last time we saw that we have a shovel operator which allows us to say A less than 8, and we end up with A being modified and having a new element at the end of it called with the value 8. Another way of accomplishing this is to actually do an a.push, which is a method that pushes a value at the end of array A. So you now notice that we have 6 values in the array, the last one of which being 9. How do you delete values from an array? We saw last time that a.delete allows us to specify a particular value we would like to delete from the array, and in this case I deleted the value 4. It turns out that a.pop is the symmetrical method to push, in the sense that it actually removes the last element from array A. Switching gears now, let's talk a little bit about operators. And we saw the .each operator, iterator, a little bit last time. This time we're going to talk again about .each and also about .times and .each with index. What is .times? Well, .times is an operator that lets you do things like this. 5.times do. This is the beginning of a block. Note in this case that I am not specifying a local variable in which to store each value in the cycle, each value of the iterator. And I'm just going to say puts hello end. What does this do? This loops 5 times, and for each time through is putting the value hello on the screen. What if I actually want to keep track of which iteration in the cycle I am in? Well, then I can specify a local variable like this in between vertical brackets, and then I could say things puts x and then puts high, and I would get 0 high, 1 high, 2 high, 3 high, 4 high. The number, this x, correspond really at as the index, if you want, as the iterator, the value of iterator each time through the loops. And one way to actually see that, how this is working, is to do 5.times and convert this expression to an array. And you will notice that the values in that array are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which are really the 5 values of the iteration. There is a shortcut, as it turns out, for doing these blocks, these do-end blocks, and the shortcut is to use curly brackets, which allows you to basically specify a block on the same line as the iterator. So if I do 5 times puts hello, I get the equivalent to what I did above when I did do-end puts hello. And if I want to use a local variable, I can do 5 times x puts x, and this will in turn put the value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 onto the screen. Another type of way of doing iterations is, instead of using just .times, is actually to specify number ranges. And the way you specify a number range is to use parentheses, is to say something like 1.5.each, and then I'm going to use my block with curly brackets, store in x the value of iterator, and print it on screen, and that will in turn print every value from 1 to 5. The advantage of using a range over 5.times is that I have control over which numbers I'm using rather than being stuck with 0 through 4. So I could do things like this: 234 through 237.each, and I want to put that value on the screen, and I get 234, 35, 36, and 37. Finally, let's revisit a little bit .each in the context of an array. Let's see if I still have my array B, and I do. So if I do B.each, I can see now that one way for me to print all the values in that array is to say curly brackets puts x. But what if I want to figure out two pieces of information? One is the value of each element in the array, but perhaps I also want its position. And this is where this special iterator called each with index, notice the underscores, whoops, sorry, typo, B dot operator, each with index. And what that does actually is this actually sets up an iterator with two different values that you can recover in local variables. One is x, that's our value of the element of the array. And then the second local variable, we could call it position, and that will give us the index into the array. And then we'd be able to say something like puts the value is, and I'm going to use string interpolation here, the value is x at position of the array B. And when I run this, it will say the value is 4 at position 0 of the array B, 5 at 1, 6 at 2, and 7 at 3. This concludes lesson 10.